live on the Facebook page. You can listen on the app as well, and on your smart speakers, and on the website at purewestradio.com. And I'm really pleased to welcome our next guest to the show, because Craig Maxwell took an unusual route to get to the rugby yesterday. Setting off in February, he walked all the way from Anglesey to Cardiff, covering incredible distances each day, and he presented the match ball ahead of Wales-France in the Six Nations, and he's doing it to fundraise for the Maxwell Family Fund at Velindre, and he's going to tell us all about it. Craig, first of all, good evening, welcome to Pure West Sport. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very good, thank you. Yeah, great, thank you for having me on, really appreciate it.
Listen, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on and to hear about the phenomenal fundraising you're doing. Just before we come to the challenge, for people watching, maybe you could explain the background, because obviously a couple of years ago, life took a very hard and unexpected twist, didn't it, and turn. Could you just tell us why and why you did this challenge?
Yeah, sure. So going back to 2022, really. So start of 2022, I wasn't feeling very well. Chest infections, short of breath, quite tired all the time, and the fatigue was a really big part of that. I went back and forth to the doctor, being at that age, 39, turning 40 that year, and a fit, healthy, person. We put it down to travelling too much at work, burning the candle at both ends, and probably overtraining a little bit, and there was nothing wrong with me. And then I did actually a bike ride from Cardiff to Paris, charity bike ride for Cardiff Rugby. And on the bike ride, I felt very ill, a lot of pain in my chest, and I started coughing up blood. So I came back from that bike ride and said to my wife, there's something not right here. So I went to the Evans doctor, and they found, unfortunately, an 8-centimetre tumour. They thought I had blood clots, but actually it was an 8-centimetre tumour in my lower left lobe of my lung. And from that followed the most difficult period of my life, actually more difficult than finding out I had stage 4 cancer. We then had to wait 78 days to get a diagnosis that it actually was cancer. We were told that it was suspected it wasn't after a biopsy. So I had 2 bronchoscopies because obviously biopsying in the lung is very difficult. When you have cancer on the outside of your body, it's easy to biopsy, but on the inside, it can take a lot longer. So I had 2 sort of failed biopsies. And then in the end, I had a CT-guided biopsy where they put a needle through your back into your lung and take apart the tumour. And then that took 78 days in total to get to that point. And that was at no fault of any doctors and nurses. It just is they haven't got the best technology available to them to help the biopsy and to diagnose internal lung cancers and other internal cancers that we need them to. So unfortunately, after that, we found out that it was stage 4. It spread to my bones as well. We also found that there were separate tumours in my first rib and my third rib, and in my sternum and in my lymph nodes as well. So it was an incurable and inoperable diagnosis. Obviously, it goes without saying, you can imagine how that felt for me and my family. But one of the real burning emotions that came out of it for my wife Tracy and myself was that we just don't want another family to have to go through what we've been through. I have cancer, we can't change that, so we have to move forward with that and deal with it the best we can. But what we can change is the process as to how we found out that we had cancer. And again, I really strongly reiterate, no fault of anybody's. It is just unfortunately the way that the current cancer pathway works. So we set out to support a project. So I got in touch with Velindre Cancer Centre, an amazing gentleman called Tom Crosby, and explained my experience to him and said, I'd like to help. How can I help? And the team at Velindre and All Wales Genomics were already on this. And they had a program called the Quick DNA, which basically could diagnose or detect cancer at stage 3 and 4 with a simple blood test. No invasive surgery, no failed bronchoscopies. A simple blood test could tell you if that tumour in your lung, because not always it is cancerous, many times it's not as well, is cancerous or not. And they were around £300,000 short to get that pilot project going, to test it in Wales, Wales being the first country ever, to see whether they could get this to work. So I decided I'm going to raise 200,000 for them. I didn't have a clue I was going to do it at the time, but it just felt like a good number and a number that we were going to go for. And that's the story. I could talk for hours now, but that's the start of the journey, really. And that's where it all started. And off the back of that, then we supported Quick DNA, established the Maxwell Family Genomics Fund, and I've completed a number of endurance challenges to support the cancer pathway around. But I'm sure we'll talk more about that as we go through.
Yeah, and we're going to give details about how people can support you. But let's talk about this very recent challenge that ended yesterday when you presented the match ball ahead of France versus Wales. You walked 780 miles from Anglesey to Cardiff. So, I mean, there's so much we can ask about this. But first of all, why did you decide to do that? Why did you decide to go from Anglesey to Cardiff?
Yeah, so a couple of bits really. Back in October, November, my cancer started growing again. So I had initial treatments and started growing. And then I was going on to a new drug in December. And typically the drugs that I'm on targeted therapies, they give me about 3 to 6 months of being okay, of being able to do activity. You know, it's not as hard as chemo. So me and my wife talked about, well, we've got a window here. Let's do something big. Let's do it now because it could be the last window. So I'd always wanted to walk the coastal path of Wales, or I was always wanted to run it. That was my dream. When I finished work, I was going to run the coastal path of Wales over, you know, many weekends, etc. A lot of my fundraising last year was either running events like marathons or bike riding, and a lot of people said to me they'd like to take part, but they just don't like running or cycling. So I thought walking was a great way for people to get introduced. But also I wanted to try and include as much as Wales as possible, and that was a big part of this for me, because I've not seen anything else, and you know I was naive to this really before I was diagnosed, that rips through families like cancer does. It's in the amount of people and families it affects in Wales. It's worrying, it's concerning, and for me, you know, uniting Wales in a battle against cancer, because I do feel it's a responsibility for all of us to fight back against this horrible disease, not just our doctors and nurses, was a big motivator for me in this, and seeing if I could connect everybody into a common cause to really help and support the cancer pathway in Wales. And, you know, and like I said at the start, make sure that, you know, the next family, like mine, didn't have the same experience we did, and get the best help and support. So when you put all that together, we came up with this wacky idea of cycling and walking the coastal path of Wales, 780 miles, which represents the 78 days it took me to get diagnosed. And I was going to do it in 26 days, because with the new liquid biopsy, the blood test, it can reduce that diagnosis from 78 to 28 to 26. So that was the reasons behind the numbers. It was pretty unlikely that I was going to be able to walk every day. We felt at the start, because of my ongoing treatment and side effects from my tablets. And just, you know, walking 23 consecutive marathons nearly is not easy. No. So we then asked the Welsh celebrity to join each day to make sure that even if I wasn't there, the event could go on and the ball could make the journey back to the game. And the ball being a key part of that, because that was the common theme here, the thing that travelled through many hands and many different communities and many different families across Wales back to the game on Sunday. So that was the vision for it. It was scary, and we did it, which was amazing. So it still hasn't quite sunk in, really.
Oh, that's phenomenal. Let me bring some of the other guys in. Fraser.
I mean, Craig, you've been blown away by your story, and actually been really blown away with the courage you speaking with there. And I was privileged yesterday actually to be in the stadium when you came out with your children with a match ball. Just describe me your emotions when you handed that over, and obviously with the 60,000 people applauding you as well.
Oh, it was, you know, that's a moment that's going to stay with me, my family, my friends, and more importantly as well, the 600 walkers who got me through it. Yeah. And we'll come on to that, because a man with stage 4 cancer shouldn't be able to walk 26 miles a day for 22 days. And there's a reason why that happened, which I'll come on to about the people that joined me. You know, many of them as well from, you know, amazing people, my friends I grew up with from West Wales. But yesterday was unbelievably special. It was amazing. It can never be replicated. You know, I will never find the words to explain that moment that did that for us. And for me, you know, going back to the place I love, Prince Park Stadium, I worked for the Welsh Rugby for 15 years, was amazing. My wife works there as well. We met there. You know, I found out that we were having our children in one of the meeting rooms. I had a phone call from my wife to say I'm pregnant. You know, there's so many big memories for me in that place. It's just incredible. So to be back there, having that moment was all really special. The bit that really got me was we're standing at the top of the tunnel. There's a really good friend of mine called Alex Leff, you've probably seen him at all internationals. He's got 6'4", big headphones on. Yeah, Glamorgan Wanderer's great rugby player, and he conducts the match day ceremonies. You know, he's the master of ceremonies, and he called us down the tunnel. And as we were coming down, he said, "A lot of your team members have made a guard of honor at the end of the pitch." And I couldn't look up, because I looked at any one of those guys that I'd worked for, guys and girls, for the last 10 years, it would have broken me. So walking down, holding the kids' hands, taking the ball out, Luke Pierce, the referee, was amazing. Really made my children feel comfortable, feel at home, and come back in. And it was over within probably 45 seconds, but it was a moment that will last forever, and just something so special, unbelievably special.
And last one from me, Craig, I just want to touch on something you talked about there, which I was going to come on to. In any endurance challenge, I suppose, isn't it? When you're out on your own, whatever you're doing, it can be difficult. And I know having people alongside you and support can make such a huge difference. Did you feel that when you were walking each time, even when, I dare say, you might have had difficult moments, that the support you had and the people alongside you really helped?
I wouldn't have done it without it. It's as simple as that. My biggest side effect is fatigue that I have from my treatments. Not just as a physical, this was a real emotional challenge for me as well. I was going back to places and seeing people that I hadn't seen for years. And interestingly, as much as the cancer's destroyed so much of me, what it has given me is a chance to connect with people and have conversations with them that I probably wouldn't have reconnected with if I wasn't in this situation, which is a beautiful thing as well. But every day was hard. That first hour getting up, missing my children. I was away from home for 23 days, tired, blisters, knees, back aching. And that first hour I was thinking, this is the worst idea. Why did I do this? I'm so stupid. It's ridiculous. And then you get to the end, the start, which was usually an amazing village hall, a church or a community centre. And you've got these people there that have given up their time away from their families, given up their energy to fundraise and support you, to give you their love. And it just lifts you. And it just gets you through the day. And if I was doing this by myself, I guarantee you after 6 days, I'd have been back home on the sofa. It wouldn't have happened. So it is those people that literally motivated me and dragged me around, which was amazing.
Yeah, Craig, I was watching. I have to say you're an inspiration and such courage to come out and say what you're saying now. And I did notice when I was watching the telly when you were coming out onto the National Stadium with your family, the referee had a few words to say to you. What did he actually say to you? Because he did, I could see that he was having a few words with you.
Yeah, I know. So he asked me whether it was cool I should be walking out after doing all the walking out. And then he spoke some kind words, and he said thank you for everything that you've done. We're in rugby and it's just a game, and this shows that there are more things more important than just rugby.
Yeah.
Which was a really special moment for me for that, and again something I'm really thankful of. And also must be said as well, my children were quite nervous in the tunnel.
Yeah.
It's like Dad saying to you, it'll be fine. Of course, you're not going to listen to Dad, are you? And Mum saying it. But he came over and he told them how nervous he was going out and spoke to them, put his arm on them, and I could see their shoulders dropped and they felt more comfortable. So, and that's why I love our great game of rugby. I love, the whole community, the spirit, the values, those small moments that probably don't mean much to him meant a huge amount to me. I mean, it was amazing.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, the rugby family, it is a very special thing. I know being involved in the game myself for many years, for them to come together as well and support you is really magnificent. And you've had some true celebrities and stars actually walking along. Yeah. Can you tell us a few who've been with you?
Yeah, so, lucky Gethin Jones, Jamie Bolsh, Becky North joined as well, the penultimate day, Lauren Jenkins, Sam Warburton, Jamie Roberts, Nicky Robinson, Martin Williams, Hugh Bennett, Jeff Williams, the team doctor for Wales. It's just been amazing. It's been absolutely brilliant to have all of that support, and again, like I said, that keeps you motivated, that keeps you going. Every morning I was waking up, there's a new person, there's new people there to give me energy and keep me along. So it made a huge difference, absolutely huge difference.
Craig, what was your of the walk? What was the bit that really sticks in the mind?
I can't call it my favourite, but it was a day that I'll never forget. So we walked from Stackpole, we walked from just past Angle, so from Cochrane, from Pembroke, effectively Pembroke Dock, all the way around to Fresh West, and through Angle, that side. So obviously I grew up around there, and have very fond memories of going back and forth. And then obviously Natasha Thompson, who was a friend I grew up with working with at Heatherton Sports Park, She sadly passed away a few weeks before the walk started. And we were messaging each other. We hadn't spoken for years, and obviously going through a similar challenge with cancer at the time. We'd messaged about her joining the walk. Unfortunately, that wasn't to be. So that day that we, there was a lot of people from Pembrokeshire on the walk that day. There was 55 people. A lot of them had knew Tash, and knew what an amazing woman she was. And her dad, her friends, and her husband joined the walk that day.
Wow.
And it just hit home for me, just again, how cruel this disease is, but also why we're doing this, why we're fundraising, and to also allow us to celebrate Tash I felt very privileged that they allowed us to do that. And it was a day that I think really summed it up for me, and one that I think was by far the most special day for me, definitely.
Oh, that's incredible. Tell people who are listening and watching now how much you've raised, Craig, because it's phenomenal.
So at the moment we stand at 1.3, we're just over 1.3 million at the moment is what we've raised, and 440,000 of that is for the Quick DNA project, which has started. So that's a current pilot in Wales. So there are patients in certain health boards across Wales that currently are now receiving the liquid biopsy. Not having, if I was to go in now to hospital, like I was 2 years ago, I would have a liquid biopsy. Before that wasn't available to me. So that's the part I'm most proud of. And unfortunately, that is diagnosing cancer. But the sooner we get people on treatment, and the sooner we can get them diagnosed, the better as well. So me and my family are hugely proud of that number. And we've still got some way to go. Unfortunately, with the size of this disease and the way that it works, even though 1.3 million is a lot of money, it's not a lot to make a big difference. And to make a big difference, we need more. So as long as I can, I'll be continuing to try and push that money as hard as I can.
And on that note, if people are watching on the Facebook page right now, the link is there. We'll leave that on our Facebook page too, because people can just use that link, Craig, and make a donation right now, can't they?
That'd be fantastic. I know times are hard. So we appreciate any donation that are coming in as well from anybody, and we just can't thank people enough for the support. It really is amazing.
Go on, Fraser.
Sorry, one last thing from me on a slightly more humorous note. I noticed you had a lot of stop-offs, so checked into sleep at one point, I believe, my local and a few rugby clubs as well. Do you use any fellow walkers along the way, mate, who got a little too comfortable behind one of the bars when you stopped off?
It was one day where we walked. We stopped at Milford Rugby Club, who are amazing hosts of ours, and we actually got the tides wrong at Dale, so you couldn't cross at Dale. So we ended up at Milford Rugby Club, an hour really they were meant to be. So there was an hour's wait for lunch, and I coach a local team called Penarth Bears in Penarth, where I grew up from, who came out and gave me a round of applause on Sundays we're coming in, which was again one of the most special moments ever. And there's a few of my rugby colleagues and coaches came down. So obviously with an hour to spare in Milford Rugby Club, you can imagine what they did. It wasn't exactly that straight walking from some of the group for the rest of the afternoon, but it certainly made it an entertaining afternoon. And then we stopped at my old club, who again gave me an amazing reception. Pembroke Harlequins, loads of family, loads of friends there, and it was amazing to get there. So they enjoyed being back at another rugby club about 3 hours later.
Speaking of old clubs, mate, speaking of old clubs, I can see Nick Geimer, the guy I know actually played a lot for Temby. Just well done, Craig.
Yeah, we played together.
Club. Yeah. Thinking of you, buddy, but still can't believe you played for the Quins.
Oh, amazing. Well, listen, Craig, thank you. How are the legs feeling?
But you know what? Surprisingly okay, which I think is worrying. So I think they shouldn't be. They really shouldn't be. But no, I think it's going to hit me later in the week. But it hasn't quite hit me yet. But we'll see how the week goes.
Oh, fingers crossed. Excellent stuff. Well, listen, it's an absolute pleasure to talk to you. Well done doesn't cut it, but seriously, well done on that challenge. That's phenomenal. And the legacy you're doing, mate, is unbelievable. You're writing it right now, and I'm sure your family must be beyond proud of you. So thank you for joining us on Pure West. Thank you for being so open in talking to us. Keep up the great work, keep up the fundraising, and we'll speak to you again. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for being with us. Craig Maxwell, our guest tonight, right here on Pure West Sport. We'll come back for the final part of tonight's show next.
The Galley Restaurant.